We learn more about the local spike in COVID-19 cases, an increase prompting Freeman Hospital to reopen its COVID unit.
A major announcement from the president addressing crime in American cities. I'm Malda Rivera in Washington, and I'll have the details coming up.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Nobby. The Missouri Attorney General's office says it's reached a settlement with Missouri-based televangelist Jim Bakker and Morningside Church for marketing a so-called potential cure for the coronavirus. As part of the settlement, the Attorney General recovered $156,000. Additionally, Bakker is not allowed to sell or advertise Silver Solution as a way to diagnose, prevent, mitigate, treat, or cure any disease or illness. Bakker must also return an additional $90,000 to consumers who purchased Silver Solution between February and March of 2020. In a written statement, the Missouri Attorney General said in part, quote, "My office will continue to work tirelessly on behalf of Missouri consumers and will not hesitate to take action when those consumers are being defrauded." Meteorologist Nick Kelly joining us now with first look at the forecast. Another hot day, another beautiful evening, though.
I know it looks nice, Jordan, but it didn't feel nice for today, especially when we roll in the numbers from dropping a regional low of 61. It felt nice this morning, but the heat and humidity a little eager to return, so we hit that high of 90 today with the humidity making it feel like we were in the mid to almost upper 90s in spots. We're still quiet out there right now, but off to the west, I'm keeping an eye on thunderstorms trying to come out of Nebraska. While most of that stays away during the overnight, as overnight lows only drop back to 74, there is a chance that some of those storms could clip us on the Missouri side throughout the late morning and maybe a straggling storm behind for the afternoon, Jordan. Otherwise, we'll have highs hot and humid again near 93. Additional rain on the way. We'll break it down in a bit.
Nick, thank you. COVID hospitalizations are up in Southwest Missouri, and Freeman Hospital is reopening its COVID unit after it closed back in March. KOAM's Chris Warner has more.
COVID cases continue to climb in the area, with Missouri seeing a rapid rise in cases compared to other states. That also means the number of COVID patients is increasing in the area, leading to the reopening of recently closed COVID units at local hospitals, including Freeman. Freeman's COVID director, Dr. Rob McNabb, says there are some key reasons he thinks led to the state we're in.
What we were doing kept it under control. Not gone, not vanquished, but very under control. And when we removed all those safety protections, now we're back up to 40 plus patients in-house, and we're still not vaccinated enough to be able to take advantage of herd immunity.
Dr. McNabb says it's still important to get vaccinated.
You know, what we know right now about these new variants is that they're still very susceptible to the vaccinations that we have, though it does look like you need to have both vaccines in that series completed to really get the benefit from it.
And despite calls for people to get vaccinated, vaccination numbers are still low in the area, including Jasper County.
Almost 35% have received one dose of vaccine, but it's closer to 30% of the total eligible population that have actually been fully vaccinated so far.
Moore says the rise in cases locally is having an interesting side effect.
We have seen our numbers increase just over the past week or so as far as people that are requesting vaccine. And so we're hoping that some people that have been kind of on the fence are looking at this and saying, well, wow, the cases are really starting to increase. Maybe it's time to start looking at getting this done, and we hope more and more people will do that.
In Jasper County, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Dr. McNabb says he's hopeful we can get through this climb in cases faster by getting more people vaccinated. Joplin Health Department reports another COVID-19 death. This time it was a 38-year-old woman. The latest death brings the city's total to 133. CDC experts say the benefits outweigh the risk when it comes to vaccinating young adults against COVID-19 after rare reports of heart inflammation. This comes as the Delta variant threatens to cause a surge of infections across the country. Fox News correspondent Steve Harrigan has more.
A CDC advisory panel said there's a likely link between heart inflammation in young adults and Pfizer's or Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. On Wednesday, experts said the inflammation typically occurred within a few days of the second shot, and those affected generally recovered from symptoms.
There's typically quick resolution. There obviously are exceptions in all things, but we are continuing to follow patients long term.
Meanwhile, the pressure is building for states to vaccinate more people as the Delta variant continues to spread. The CDC says the strain accounts for about 20% of new U.S. cases. It's currently taking hold in Missouri, which now leads the U.S. with the highest rate of new infections. State Health Department data shows COVID-related hospitalizations increased 11% since the beginning of the month. Dr. Anthony Fauci warns the Delta strain could become dominant in the U.S. within several weeks.
We know that from the experience that our colleagues in the UK have gone, because it just exploded in the UK. It went from a minor variant to now more than 90% of the isolates in the UK.
But public health officials say young people are the most likely to remain unvaccinated. The Biden administration is ramping up its efforts to combat any vaccine hesitancy.
Where we have pockets of people who are undervaccinated, those individuals are at risk, families are at risk, and I worry that communities may also be at risk.
At this point, the CDC says current vaccines are effective against the variant. In Atlanta, Steve Harrigan, Fox News.
The Biden administration is announcing a new strategy today on gun violence. This as violent crime surges in cities throughout the country. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in D.C. with more on the set of actions the White House is taking.
There will be zero tolerance for rogue gun dealers who deliberately violate federal law, says the Biden administration. The policy is part of a series of actions the president is taking to crack down on gun violence as many major cities struggle with a rise in violent crime.
What the president has watched closely is that there has been, of course, an increase in violent crime, gun violence specifically in a lot of communities over the last 18 months. He's obviously taken a number of steps over the past couple of months to work to address that. This is a continuation of that.
Under the new strategy, the Justice Department will also take aim at ghost guns or homemade guns and will launch strike forces to target illegal gun trafficking. But critics point to calls to defund the police as a bigger problem, saying the lack of support for law enforcement led to the spike in violence.
They have a tough job. It's a dangerous job. They risk their lives for us, and we need to support them and not tear them down.
The administration's actions come as police reform legislation lags in Congress, an issue the White House says won't conflict with their goal of tackling crime. Next year's midterm elections already in play, with many Republicans getting ready to seize on the issue of law and order.
They have to actually change the way that the Democratic Party is viewing our police and being derogatory toward them and stop the defunding of our law enforcement.
The Treasury Department says states can use $350 billion from the American Rescue Plan to hire more police officers or pay for overtime. The money can also be used to help teens get summer jobs or expand education programs. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another Force Day hero. Chester Pryor Jr. served in the U.S. Army from 1952 to 54. Native of Pittsburgh, Pryor was stationed in Korea, earning several awards. And we are proud to thank and honor Corporal Chester Pryor Jr. He's tonight's Force Day hero. Nick Kelly's up next. We'll complete look at the forecast a bit later. All-state recognition for a pair of SEK baseball standouts. Going to have those details in sports.
Leave it to Mother Nature to have the ultimate say on how our weather goes on a day when we were expecting the heat and humidity to hold back for another day. She had other ideas in mind, so even though we had partly cloudy skies this morning and then turning mostly sunny from indigo sky outside of Seneca, Missouri, the temperatures wasted no time warming back up once again. After we had a nice day the other day, mid-80s for highs with low humidity. We dropped back into the lower 60s and pushed upper 80s to near 90. And with that humidity back in play, it certainly felt like we were in the mid to upper 90s across the area. So definitely felt like summer once again today. At least we're looking okay right now at 9/11 on this Wednesday evening from 7th and Rangeline. 81 in Joplin, feels like 84 with that dew point still right up there at 70 degrees. Outside of the Joplin city limits, we have a bunch of us in the lower to middle 80s still at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, but you factor in the humidity, it makes it feel like we're still at 90 in Columbus, 92 Chanute, 89 79 in Miami. So it's still warm and muggy, but we're going to try and drop back into the mid-70s overnight before we heat up again for your Thursday. Not a lot of action throughout the course of the day, but you don't have to venture too far to the northwest to see still thunderstorms trying to get their act together across northern and western parts of Nebraska. But it's this eventual complex that's forming ahead of a dry line in Nebraska. It's going to ride along our advancing warm front and try to clip us as we go into tomorrow morning. But I'm still keeping an eye on not just the cold front to the north that'll give us a better shot for rain by the time the weekend gets here, but a series of waves running along the upper level ridge that's trying to build back in. The ridge itself will keep us hot and humid for a few days before we finally see another break from the summer heat and humidity. I don't think we have anything to worry about for the rest of the night and into tomorrow morning. We'll have partly cloudy skies ahead of that advancing complex of thunderstorms. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of muggy and very mild, with lows starting out in the mid-70s. Now, here's 10 o'clock. The future track suggesting that this decaying complex of storms will hold together in some fashion as it works in the Missouri, and it wants to try and clip us on the Missouri side as we go around lunchtime into the early afternoon. But still, any outflow we get from that batch of storms, I would be surprised if that resulted in an isolated thunderstorm or two during the afternoon. But regardless of how tomorrow plays out, I think it's going to be another hot and humid day. 74 in the morning, 87 by noon, highs near 93. Looking beyond tomorrow afternoon, though, we could have another complex of storms clip us Friday morning, and then additional scattered storms for Friday afternoon. But still, that keeps us hot and humid, with temperatures pushing back to 94 after a warm start at 77 in the morning. But remember that cold front up north? Look at what it does Saturday and into early next week. Not only does it ramp up our rain and thunderstorm chances for Saturday and Sunday, it will thankfully give us another break in the heat. 85 on Saturday, 81 on Sunday, staying mainly in the lower to middle 80s going into early next week, Jordan.
Are you usually this close to me, Nick Kelly, at the desk?
Is that a problem?
Well, no, I just don't think the camera guys are set up for this. Were you guys set up for this two-shot?
I don't know. I was just following orders from earlier that just told to come over here.
We go with the roll, right,
Yeah, we
Nick
do.
Kelly? All right. Thanks so much. Coming up, an argument about free speech.
A high school cheerleader suspended for her off-campus profanity finds an ally in the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm David Spunt in Washington. More on the case that has implications for millions of students. That's next.
U.S. Supreme Court handed down a ruling today involving free speech and the First Amendment. The justices sided with a Pennsylvania cheerleader who was suspended from her school's JV team back in 2017 after posting profanity on social media while on campus. The former student argued she could not be punished for posts made off school grounds, and the nation's highest court agreed. Fox News correspondent David Spunt is in D.C. with more on this ruling.
In a ruling with implications for the nation's 50 million public school students, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 8-1 Wednesday in favor of a teenage cheerleader suspended for using profanity online. The justices determined her off-campus, vulgar Snapchat posts were in fact protected speech under the First Amendment. In his majority opinion, Justice Stephen Breyer wrote, "It might be tempting to dismiss Brandy Levy's words as unworthy of the robust First Amendment protections, but sometimes it is necessary to protect the superfluous in order to preserve the necessary."
He said, look, you say you're trying to protect these students, but part of your function is to train the future generation of citizens. And key to our definition of citizenship is free speech.
That cheerleader, Brandy Levy, says she made the posts in 2017 when she learned she didn't make her school's varsity cheerleading squad.
I was just really upset on that day, and I made the post.
While disappointed at the time, Levy says she's glad her case is making a difference.
I have the chance to show other people that are like me that it's okay to express how you feel and not get in trouble for it.
The justices held there are some instances where a school district can legally punish a student for their off-campus speech. Examples include bullying, harassment, or other types of violence. In Washington, David Spunt, Fox News.
In his dissenting opinion, Justice Clarence Thomas disagreed with the ruling, arguing schools have historically had the authority to regulate off-campus speech if it could harm the school, its faculty, or other students. Justice Thomas wrote schools are going to now be at a loss as to what exactly today's ruling means for them. Up next, they refused to get the COVID-19 vaccines. The hospital they worked at fired them. Going to hear about future legal action. More than 150 employees at Methodist Hospital in Texas have resigned or were fired. This after refusing to get that COVID-19 vaccine. Fox's Tiffany Justice spoke with one of these former employees about the legal action they are now seeking.
June 7th, hard deadline. Out of the 178 initially suspended from Houston Methodist, 25 decided to go ahead and take the COVID-19 shot.
The rest of us all stayed on board. We got terminated today,
leaving 153 resigning or terminated during the 2-week suspension period. But Jennifer Bridges saying the number is even higher.
A lot of people resigned. Some resigned weeks ago, some resigned like just a couple days before the deadline. We had a lot of physicians resign ahead of time, and now a lot of them are stuck in the same boat we are too, because they didn't want to take the shot.
A spokesperson with Houston Methodist confirming to Fox 26, saying the employees who became compliant during the suspension period returned to work the day after they became compliant. A lawsuit against the hospital is already going through the court system. A U.S. district judge tossed out the lawsuit, but Jennifer tells Fox 26 they plan on appealing and have filed in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals.
The people on our lawsuit are not just Methodist employees. I mean, we have all kinds of Methodist employees on board, like every walks of life that works at the hospital. We also have police officers that do security there. We have physicians, we have vendors. We have a lot of different people on this lawsuit.
We're going to wait and see what the court says.
Jared Woodfield, attorney representing these now former employees, expects the case to reach the Texas Supreme Court.
First, I want to ask you, what made you want to do this? And how has the process been?
Definitely don't regret it at all. We're actually growing and getting so much stronger every single day. People need to understand the proper risk factors and get proper informed consent instead of being lied to.
All right, coming up, why a hippo at the Cincinnati Zoo is seemingly not happy at all with her zookeeper. So there's this hippo named Fiona, and she apparently is not a fan of bubbles. Cincinnati Zoo captured video of the zookeeper there blowing bubbles at the 3-year-old hippopotamus. In the video, Fiona was quick to run away. Look at her. I want no part of this, thank you very much. As those bubbles got near her, and she gave the zookeeper a disapproving look. Oh, Fiona, live life a little. Before you know it, though, she'll probably be bathing in that bubble substance that makes bubbles. You know what I mean. All right, 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports. Coming away, Mercy Hospital, too, is seeing an increase in COVID-19 cases among vaccinated people.
The safety concerns are increasing as we inch closer to the Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo. I'm Greg Falcon in London. That's my story. Coming up.
Missouri is now leading the nation with the highest rate of new COVID-19 infections. In Joplin, local hospitals in particular are seeing an increase in those COVID-19 patients and hospitalizations. KOAM's Bronte Sorosky spoke with health experts on the strain this is putting on Joplin healthcare workers.
In Joplin right now, we have more COVID patients with a population of 50,000 compared to St. Louis.
At Mercy Hospital, the increase in patients isn't just coming from at-risk groups.
Last year, we were seeing the elderly population, 60s, 70s, 80s in the ICU. Not anymore. We're seeing patients in their 30s, 40s, 50s.
With this recent spike in cases, they worry about reaching capacity limits.
Some difficulty in finding staff. So bed is an issue. We may reach our capacity to take care of COVID patients.
Dr. Esquera says low vaccination rates in the state are a factor in this spike.
This is the reality now. We are seeing a return of COVID. Southwest Missouri has the dubious distinction of being the hotspot in the country. And Missouri has one of the lowest vaccination rates in particular Southwest Missouri.
It's also causing concern for local health departments.
Last year, about this time, we were seeing a major increase in cases, and we're approaching that same kind of increase. So that causes a lot of concern with our health professionals, because we want to make sure that we have adequate hospital space.
Now with these new patients, Mercy had to turn their ICU into a negative pressure room.
Each room can now accommodate a COVID patient. If they need a ventilator, that kind of care.
Dr. Esquera says if numbers continue to increase at this rate with low vaccination rates, it could lead to another public health problem. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Right now, Mercy is seeing 31 patients hospitalized due to COVID-19. USDA has issued grants and loans to a couple of Southeast Kansas communities to equip, rebuild, and modernize essential services. A total of $3.5 million. Altamont, Kansas, getting a $260,000 loan that's going to be used to buy a fire truck for the city of Altamont, also the Mount Pleasant Township. And Humboldt is going to get a $50,000 grant and a $255,000 loan that will purchase a custom fire truck. The current truck, by the way, is 27 years old and doesn't have safety restraints for some riders. Businesses in Iola, Kansas are paying for kids to swim at the Iola pool free of charge. Outsiders Bar and Grill challenged other Iola businesses to contribute to the pool so those kiddos could enjoy summer without worrying about money. Pool officials say this challenge helps area kids and the pool. Residents are definitely grateful.
Yeah, well, see, I don't have to pay. I can just save my money up for whatever I want to get.
Save that money up, little one. Outsiders Bar and Grill started off the challenge by paying for 60 kids' passes. Joplin's Wildcat Clays today gave area kids a lesson in dealing with wild babies. Kiddos took part in some arts and crafts. They also learned lessons in things like dealing with baby birds found on the ground and that they can be put back into their nest. Here's a chance for kids and adults to get recognized for their creativity. The Joplin Public Library is giving out art boards, and people can create artwork based on this year's statewide theme for summer reading, which is What's the Story of You?
Our role here in the library is more of an arts and cultural role, and it's a lot of fun for us, and it really provides a venue, being here in the public library, for us to reach a new audience and to kind of bring them into what's going on in the local visual arts. And having a program like this does that while encouraging people to participate.
Entries must be returned to the library by 5 p.m. July 31st, and all entries will be exhibited at the library from August 14th through September 25th. Also at the Joplin Library, there's a unique exhibit called C is for Color. It's geared directly towards kids with paintings at their eye level, as we can see. Kids can check out some of their favorite animals painted by local artist Connie Miller. The exhibit runs through August 31st. Controversial antivirus software magnate John McAfee has died. McAfee was found dead in his prison cell in Barcelona on Wednesday. He died shortly after a national court in Spain approved his extradition to the United States. McAfee was facing tax evasion charges in Tennessee federal court for failing to report income he earned from promoting cryptocurrencies. The Justice Department also alleges he failed to file tax returns from 2014 to 2018, despite receiving millions of dollars in income throughout those years. The software mogul was awaiting extradition from the Spanish jail since his arrest last October. The cause of death is under investigation officially. There's unofficial things out there in a way, but officially still under investigation. McAfee was 75 years old. Tokyo Olympics are 1 month away, and organizers are concerned still about the safety of the games. Fox News senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Pelcott has more now from London.
Japan's vaccination rollout remains stagnant with just 7% of the population fully vaccinated. This poses a major threat to the upcoming Olympic Games as UN officials meet with the International Olympic Committee to discuss the safety of the event. Despite this, confidence is growing that the Games can be held without putting people at risk.
The rates of disease have fallen persistently and consistently in Japan over the last number of weeks. We're following up with the IOC and with Japanese authorities.
The opening ceremony is 1 month away, and calls to cancel the games are increasing across Tokyo. Protesters chanted and held banners during a number of street rallies in recent days. Anxious residents say they're worried the games may turn into a super spreader event.
There have been many problems about the Olympics. Those issues have not only not been solved, but rather have gotten worse.
The city might get crowded and the coronavirus could further spread. I don't understand why they're holding them.
To prevent an outbreak, Olympic organizers are taking a number of steps. No cheering will be allowed. There'll be a cap on the number of spectators, and social distancing will be enforced. Also, no foreign guests will be allowed, and there will be strict consequences for athletes who violate COVID-19 protocols.
If there is a really flagrant violation, there are various laws regarding immigration, and deportation is just about possible.
The games are scheduled to kick off on July 23rd, just days after Japan lifts more COVID-19 restrictions. In London, Greg Palcont, Fox News.
A bit later, going to look at how some international countries are penalizing people with COVID vaccine hesitancy.
The U.S. is doing its part to donate vaccines around the world, but it doesn't guarantee folks abroad will be lining up to get the shots. I'm Marianne Rafferty with more on the vaccine hesitancy threatening inoculation rates around the globe.
While the expectation was to keep things warm and a little bit muggy for today, Mother Nature always has the ultimate say, so it was back into the summer heat and humidity for the middle of this week. It looked okay, though, throughout the day. Indigo Sky Casino Resort, the time-lapse outside of Seneca, Missouri showed quite a bit of cloud cover to start the day. Then we had mostly sunny skies try and filter back in at times, but we certainly enjoyed yesterday while we could. Mid-80s with low humidity. That's rare to come by for a late June day, but after we dropped into the lower 60s this morning, we pushed into the upper 80s to about 90 degrees with the humidity back in tow as well. So where do we stand right now at 9:39? Well, it looks okay from 7th and Range line, but it's warm and muggy. It's 81, feels like 84 with the dew point at 70 with the south breeze right around 10 miles per hour. Outside of Joplin, we have some lower 80s mainly in southwestern Missouri, lower to middle 80s elsewhere across our corners of Kansas and Oklahoma. But you factor in the dew point still near 70, it feels like we're in the mid to upper 80s all across the board. We are going to drop back into the 70s overnight while I keep an eye on thunderstorms still trying to come together out in Nebraska. These storms are firing up ahead of a dry line, and once they do get their act together, they're going to ride along the advancing warm front as we go into tomorrow morning. While we keep an eye on that, we're also watching this cold front to the north. That's going to be a better shot for rain by the weekend. And we're watching the upper levels too. This upper ridge is trying to build back in, but the storms firing in Nebraska, that's because of a weak disturbance riding along the edge of that ridge. So a lot of factors coming into play, but let's see what it means in the end result with our future track forecast. I think we'll go partly cloudy overnight, and we're dry for the night, thankfully, and I think we're dry for the morning drive. Mild with lows in the mid-70s. Here's 10 o'clock, the latest run of our future track. Once the thunderstorms to come working through Kansas City, near Sedalia, near Whiteman Air Force Base, then it wants to try and clip our part of southwestern Missouri. I don't think we'll have to deal with this being severe, but these could be strong storms with some heavy rainfall, maybe leaving behind an inch before this moves along. And if we get any outflow or winds coming out from the storms and sets up shop around here, I would not be surprised if it led to a few isolated storms in the afternoon. Despite all of that, I think it's going to be another hot and humid day. 74 in the morning, 87 by noon, highs near 93. I think we can get there with that south wind throughout the day. Pretty up there at 10 to 20 miles per hour. We might be quiet to start Thursday evening out, but by Friday morning we could have another complex of storms try to clip us during the morning, and then additional storms for Friday afternoon with highs still in the lower, if not mid 90s, because of this upper ridge trying to hold on. But it fades away once again with another good upper level low and that cold front too, giving us plentiful rain chances throughout the weekend and early next week. I don't see that system as a severe setup, but this could bring quite a bit of rainfall if we can't spread it out. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on as well. There's a good thing about these rain chances on the way, Jordan. It'll help us out with temperatures again. 93 tomorrow, 94 Friday. We just have to get past a muggy, miserable 77 to start Friday morning out. Then we're back in the lower and middle 80s for the rest of the forecast.
So heat and rain is the name of the story, pretty much.
Yeah, but at least the rain will catch us a break from the heat come early next week.
That is good news. Nick Kelly, thank you as always. All right, coming up in sports, the Royals aiming to clinch a series win against the Yankees. Plus, we catch up with the former Pitt State head coach after a recent promotion at Division I, Wichita State.
A pair of Southeast Kansas baseball standouts earned first-team All-State honors today from Sports in Kansas. In Class 4A, Chinook's Cam Custer and Fort Scott's Luke Bradbury are first-team All-State selections. Now, Custer is a first-team All-State utility player for the Comets. Bradbury, first team in the outfield. This season for the Tigers, Bradbury collected a team-high 28 hits in 21 games, hitting 11 doubles, driving in 17. He also tied for a team high with 21 runs scored. Well, former Pittsburgh State head softball coach Elizabeth Economon was back in the four states on Tuesday. We caught up with Coach E to talk about her new title at Wichita State, keeping up with the Gorillas, and still recruiting players from the four-state area. Former Pittsburgh State head coach Elizabeth Economon has been elevated to associate head coach for Wichita State softball.
It shows you loyalty and old age and, time put in and caring about a program that you're part of. I really enjoy working with Coach Brett Benner, who's our head coach, and our new pitching coach. We got a great thing going, so to be a part of that and to be loyal to that group means a lot to me. We had a great season, coming off one of the best seasons in school history, so hoping to keep that going, but Wichita's been good to me and my family.
Coach E was back in the four states on Tuesday for a skills camp at Missouri Southern.
I miss being down here and seeing all the people that we spent so much time with, so it's always good to get back and see everybody, but there's good softball down here, and I feel like sometimes Southeast Kansas gets the quick once over, and there's kids that come from small towns in Oklahoma, small towns in Missouri and Kansas that maybe don't get recognized initially, but they're there, so you just got to find them.
Economon left Pitt State in 2017 after 6 years as head coach. She won more than 200 games at PSU. And while she's moved on to Wichita and the Division I level, she still keeps tabs on the Gorillas and the rest of the MIAA.
I always keep an eye on the MIAA. I obviously follow everybody that's been in the league for a while, and Coach Blackney here at Southern I've known for a long time, so I'm excited about the success she's had with her program almost immediately. So it's exciting to see the teams that you used to compete against have success. When you're not there, it feels a lot better to cheer for them. So yeah, I'm excited the direction Pitt State's going in. I hope things go well.
Now, Coach E is entering her 5th season at Wichita State. The Shockers were 41-13-1 this year, winning both the American Conference regular season and postseason tournament titles. The St. Louis Cardinals are sitting in 4th right now in the National League Central. The Cards have lost 4 of their last 5, including Game 1 of a 2-game set to the Tigers last night. Now, those two teams back on the field for the finale today. Nolan Arenado, big swing for St. Louis, up and out to left. Solo homer. Cardinals up 1-0 in the second. To the 3rd inning now, Tommy Edman up. Bounces one back to center. That scores another to get the lead to 2. The Tigers, though, would roll from there, tied 2-2. Daz Cameron way out to left. Home team has its first lead. Then in the 5th, Jonathan Scope. This will be his 2nd homer of the day, 15th of the season. Tigers run away from the Cards today, 6-2. The Kansas City Royals face the Yankees today, Game 2 of their 3-game series. Danny Duffy back from the injured list to get the start for the Royals. Duffy went just 2 innings, did not allow a run, struck out 4. Gary Sanchez just tied it up in the bottom of the 9th, 5-5 with a solo home run for New York. And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
Coronavirus variants are still a major cause of concern at home and abroad, with the new Delta variants now responsible for 1 in 5 new COVID infections here in the U.S. And while health officials say vaccines can help prevent the spread, the U.S. is working to ship donated doses to other countries to help them combat the surge in positive cases. Fox News correspondent Marianne Rafferty has more on those efforts and how vaccine misinformation could be slowing down the rollout.
The U.S. is falling short of its plans to donate 80 million doses of coronavirus vaccine to foreign countries by the end of this month, with only about 10 million doses being shipped internationally so far through the United Nations COVAX program. But as countries abroad prepare to receive more doses, some are encountering a problem, also faced by health agencies here in the U.S. Vaccine hesitancy.
Please take the vaccine. It does not do any harm. You will be safe wherever you go. No, I am scared.
With less than 5% of the entire country fully vaccinated, medical crews in India are on a mission to fight vaccine misinformation, but say they're encountering more folks who believe the shots are harmful.
When we go to conduct tests or talk to them, sometimes people tell us to leave, or they would beat us. Sometimes they also throw stones and bricks.
Meanwhile, over in the Philippines, their president is cracking down on vaccine opposition by threatening to throw people in jail.
If you don't want to be vaccinated, I will have you arrested.
Legal experts, though, are calling the threats a bluff. But what's not a bluff is the surge of new virus cases plaguing Indonesia, with health officials reporting more than 14,000 additional cases in a 24-hour period alone earlier this week.
The situation is now categorized as very serious because we are negligent.
And back in the U.S., the White House continues trying to breathe new life into the sluggish vaccine rollout, saying the new Delta variant out of India can threaten efforts to get the pandemic under control. Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
Coming up, come to check out a new dating comedy on Netflix, Good on Paper. Get ready for a new Netflix dating comedy with a mix of stand-up, story, and real life, all courtesy of Eliza Schlesinger. Fox's Ashley Dvorkin has a preview of Good on Paper.
I want you to be my girlfriend.
The new Netflix comedy Good on Paper is a mostly true story written by and starring Eliza Schlesinger about a stand-up comic who thinks she's met the perfect guy until she and her friend discover that may not be the case.
We should get him drunk and make him confess.
Schlesinger says she isn't one to play sleuth herself.
That sounds like a member of cancel culture. You know, you go digging, you're always going to find something, but I really would prefer to be a kind of person that trusts people and that takes people at face value, because God forbid that person's not lying and then they find out you went and did all that digging. It really says more about you.
I've seen you before.
Co-star Ryan Hansen is one to investigate.
I'm pretty good at digging and searching on the internet, so maybe I am that guy for my friends.
Ryan says he's surprised how much of this story actually happened.
Every scene I was with Eliza and I'd be like, wait, is this part true? Yeah. This part? Yeah. So I think it's like 90% like true. But you're a comedian, right?
Also true to life, Eliza includes stand-up in the film.
I've been told that I can't be a stand-up in so many TV projects over the years that for me, this was like a vendetta. I was like, I will show this. This is the most authentic way. And I wanted to use that stand-up as a narrative device. I felt it perpetuate a story.
And the cast can relate to how this main character keeps pushing forward to make it in their business.
This career is not promised. It is always an uphill battle. Everything is a push. And so you got to love it, because no one's going to push you to push through.
You always think, oh, this is so hard, but then there's a reason for it. You know, everything I didn't get, I got something else.
Let's ride! In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
And that's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of giraffes at Brookfield Zoo near Chicago. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.